Hello everyone and welcome to the final round of the Alpine Esports Series. We've got some great racing coming your way tonight. I'm joined by Thom Brouwer, who has been here for the whole series. And Thom, what are you looking forward to seeing tonight?
Everything, honestly. This is going to be the finale. We're going to see everyone fighting for the final positions, final points. And I think if there's one round where we're going to see fireworks, Chris, it's going to be this one. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Of course, we've also talked to the drivers in between as well, which we'll see throughout the show today, on how they see basically this last round here, and the points that are, or the separation between the points between a lot of the drivers is super close. So let's see who's going to be able to grab those very big prizes that are up for grabs today. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Well, you mentioned that there might be fireworks. It's been pretty spicy already. We have two categories tonight. We have all of the pro drivers and we have some invitational drivers. So Thom, maybe you can take us through who's going to be joining us in the invitational category tonight.
Of course. So today we will have one guest, as Anna is actually unfortunately unwell. So if we can all get some good wishes in the chat for Anna, that would be great. But we're going to have GB68, who is an F1 streamer. We're going to have him running for the very first time in ACC, and there is some rumors that he's actually doing it in virtual reality. So that's going to be super cool. Let's see what he can do among the pro drivers, which they are going to be pushing as hard as they can. Now, the race schedule, what is it like, Chris?
Well, we had our first round at Barcelona, followed up by Paul Ricard. Both of them provided really great racing, particularly the long draft down the Mistral straight of Paul Ricard. Provided plenty of spice throughout the field. But tonight, we've let the fans decide the final round. And like any good Twitter thread that mentions Assetto Corsa Competizione, the answer was the Nurburgring. Of course, we are racing on the Grand Prix circuit rather than the full Nordschleife, because that's where the SRO events take place. And yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. It's a tight technical circuit, Thom. Where do you think the overtaking opportunities are going to be?
So I've actually done a couple of laps actually in the A110 around this track, and I think it's going to be probably on the main straight, which you'll see from turn 16 all the way into turn 1, where there's probably going to be a lot of drivers who are going to make mistakes while battling in the braking zone, and probably going a little bit too deep. As you can see right here, the sprint race, 15 minutes with 10 points up for grabs, and then the main race, 25 minutes with 25 points as well. So we're going to have plenty of racing, but the drivers will have to manage their well, basically their speed in each of the sessions. When do they want to push all out? Now, this is the car, the A110, and we have, of course, 30 pro drivers that qualified from a time trial challenge. And, of course, those AM drivers, which today is going to be GB. The car, very light. Now, I don't know if you've done a couple of laps in the A110, but what are the characteristics of this car, Chris?
Well, a couple of thousand is probably closer to the mark. It's one of my favorite GT4 cars. It is probably the closest out of the whole GT4 field in the SRO events that are replicated in ACC. It's the closest to your sort of traditional European sports car. It's got a smaller engine maybe than some, but due to balance of performance that works throughout these series, they're all sort of brought together in the same performance window. So it's a nice light car that you can hustle around, and it's really good fun. You get to keep it on the grip limit, slide around a little. It's a little bit loose at the back end, but it's also got a really compliant front end when you need it as well. So it's a car you can rely on, but isn't one of those sort of boring on-rails jobs. So for me, definitely one of the more fun cars to throw around in ACC, and it's definitely a nice sort of palate cleanser, really, after you've spent so much time in maybe one of those mid-engined GT3 cars that just require all that precision. You can get a bit messy with the Alpine. You probably shouldn't. In fact, Jimmy Broadbent in round 1 proved that maybe the quickest way to go wasn't sideways through every corner, but he definitely looked like he was having fun doing it. And on that note, we have some highlights of round 1 for you to watch.
But here we go then, green light. for the first race of the Alpine Esports Series powered by Binance. In their first turn, it looks like there has already been an overtake as they go side by side into the first turn. My good and going super wide, too wide over the curbs and being overtaken. Squeezed a little bit to the inside by Koen, but Koen decides to go to the outside to get a little bit more of a turn in right there. However, James has the position. Oh no! Little bit of a tap.
Optimistic, didn't it? And it proved to be so. That was very late move.
Look at that! So many cars, super close, 3 wide even through the first turn, and then up the inside there for the red car.
That is the closest of margins that you could hope for. 0.3 of a second almost feels a bit luxurious at this stage. Great drive though from George Boothby. Baldwin already gaining an advantage as the lights go green. Haye looking like he got the better run off the lights though. Can he repeat what happened to him in race 1 and run round the outside into turn 1?
And it's going to be 3 wide there. No way that's going to work.
Oh dear, that's Matthias Kuhn again, who twice during the previous race at that particular corner lost a position by trying to gain a position. This time
there is some fighting going on.
Yeah, it's looking pretty busy there for Jimmer and the various cars around him as we see him working the wheel.
Mayhem.
Oh, wonderful camera view there as we saw the very late braking moment with the VR headset view on the right hand side.
What a beautiful move.
After that was beautiful, textbook stuff. Little bit of a touch there, but I call that friendly.
As we have a huge battle here, and it's actually going to be Miato being overtaken by Nikolai then. But he re-overtakes him with a switchback.
Excellent race from James Baldwin. The sort of thing we've come to expect from him, Thom.
Well done to him. Going over the line here then, showing his victory celebration. And we're back. So that was round 1 of the Alpine Esports Series, and like Chris said, the drifting in Jimmy Broadbent's car wasn't necessarily the best thing to do. Yet we have seen some drivers drifting as well, even in the second race too. Now the championship has been a very tough one. Right away from the beginning, you can see right here, James in the very first round already took a little bit of a head start, with George Boothby still very close behind. However, in the second race, George Boothby fell down a little bit, and now you can see the gaps are just a tiny bit bigger here at the front of the grid. It doesn't necessarily mean the championship is over, because they can still score 35 points. So theoretically, it could still mean that James Baldwin is not gonna win the championship. He is gonna have to go and have an atrocious race here to throw it away now though, but who knows? We never know. As we look down to P11 and 12, 13, we have a couple of point scorers here, and the rest of the grid are yet to score a point. However, who knows? Maybe now they've practiced even more to get that last point right here. Now, so far, Chris, the championship itself, how have you seen it unfold, and are you surprised by any of the performances so far?
To some extent, and he might dislike me for saying it, I'm surprised by just how dominant James Baldwin has been, with the exception of one bad qualifying right at the sprint race for the first round, where he wasn't able to get a lap in, which put him further down the grid than he'd like to be. He's been the man to beat. He's very much pole and led his way pretty much through all of the races so far. And as much as we would expect that to continue, Thom did just mention to me off camera that because James has been in Spa, because he's been picked up to race in the 24 Hours of Spa race that's coming up, he's been out there and hasn't had the time to put the practice in. Now, he needs to score 10 points this evening to secure that championship. And the likes of Luke Whitehead, George Boothby, not far behind. So I was going into tonight thinking, well, this is kind of a done deal for James. But actually, with that piece of information, I think it potentially makes things a bit more challenging. And then, of course, P2 down to P5 or 6 are separated by 9 or 10 points. So absolutely everything to play for. And on that note, I believe we're actually going to talk about the prizes now, and it is those top 6 that will be scoring the big points prizes, Thom.
For sure, and as you've mentioned, the gap between the top 2 until 5th, right, is super close. Now, if we look at the prices in terms of like the prize money in terms of the Binance fan token, the Alpine fan token, it can range from $25,000 all the way to $2,500. So there's so much to play for in this last and final round. Basically $22,000, which is insane. So as we go through it, in terms of the Alpine fan token prices, first place gets $40,000 all the way ranging down to $100 for a fan plays. Now, the Binance fastest lap award actually gets $1,500 in Alpine fan token as well, with the fastest in-game qualifier lap getting $1,500 too. There's other prizes as well in the Alpine fan token range, with $6,000 going to new Binance users who scan their QR code in the live stream. So make sure you get yourselves ready if you have not scanned that one, because you can go and have a chance at that one too. And then $4,000 of Alpine fan token for those who collect all 5 POAP NFTs. So let's see. There are some other prizes as well, right, Chris?
Yeah, I was just thinking $40,000 of Alpine fan tokens will buy you quite a lot of iRacing content, maybe nearly all of it. But yeah, the rest of the prizes on offer tonight have been offered maybe more traditional esports prizes. We've got, for the first place, the winner tonight of the championship will get a chance to drive the Alpine A110 GT4, which I think I'd enjoy that personally. Philips Hue have supplied a lighting bundle for the winner. Freem have supplied some clothing, gloves and shoes, and some cool shades by Shamir. Second place will get a Track Racer TRX rig, the Philips Hue lighting, some Freem Alpine Esports gloves. Third place, BenQ have supplied a really cool curve monitor. Philips once again in with the lighting, and Freem with those gloves. And the top 5 will all get the opportunity to join Shamir's esports R&D team, where they're going to be provided with cutting-edge esports glasses technology for testing purposes. I don't know what esports glasses are, but I quite like a pair myself, Tom.
100%. I actually tried some on when I was in France, and they were actually it was very interesting. It was very, very interesting. So yeah, let's see. I mean, I guess they're going to find out if they get into the top 5, right? So yeah, looking forward to that. Now, as we look to the track details, because we want to see what the track is like, right? The Nurburgring, this is where we're driving at. Now, I think, do you know all the names of the corners yourself, Chris? Because I don't myself, but I know what the corners are like, and I know that they are super tricky if you're going to try and do some overtakes here. It's a very, very narrow track, and a pretty long one as well, actually.
Yeah, it's probably not the longest on the calendar. The IGTC tracks probably a bit longer in general, but it is one of those circuits where there are multiple really technical corners. You've got Sector 1, which is filled with the largely by the Mercedes arena, which is very slow, and it's kind of difficult to make a lot of headway. Yeah, there's a lot of being very precise with the car, keeping the weight on the nose exactly where you need it to be, and waiting for a long time to be able to get back on the power through all those corners. Through Sector 2, it opens up a bit with the exception of the Dunlop hairpin. Through the very fast Michael Schumacher S, you've got a couple of quicker corners that take you onto the back section of the track, and the other overtaking opportunity that Thom didn't mention in the earlier part of the video, down into the chicane. Then it's just the final corner, another one of those long, just wait to get back on the power, and it's super critical for not only lap time but making sure you don't get nabbed. Speaking of getting nabbed, we're going to take a look at the round 2 highlights now.
Go then, as we get to the first turn, it is gonna be time to start the race. Will there be any overtakes then as we go into the first turn? It's gonna be a heartbreaking zone. It's gonna be Miato on the right hand side and Baldwin just about taking the inside and keeping it there.
George Boothby already up to 8th place, trying to undo some of that bad qualifying position straight away as he makes contact, in fact.
That could be 3 wide, not quite, but being on the outside here, oh my goodness, and there's actually a little bit of a slide going on. James Baldwin will go and win the sprint race with Luke Whitehead behind and Miato in P3.
It's difficult to tell at this stage, but it looks like James Baldwin's got away cleanly. He's moving over a little bit more than he was straight away last time. Oh, that is a big drop. And lucky that... Oh, I spoke far too soon. Was about to say lucky that didn't end up in a 10-pin bowling incident there, but whoever that was managed to have a second bite at the cherry and go straight back into the pack.
And a lot of cars going wide there then.
I'm not surprised to see the chaos down at Senior in the background pits, and oh wow, that's you do not want to see. I didn't see who the driver that was hit was, but they had no business moving across the track. It's being Miato touch on the straight. James Baldwin's done everything he needs to do today. 2 commanding wins from the front. That was round 2 at the sunny, eventually, Paul Ricard. Now, earlier in the week, Thom spoke to Luke Whitehead, one of our championship contenders currently in P2, about what he's expecting from the final, and the amount of pressure that this sort of prize pool puts on the drivers.
All right, I'm here with Luke Whitehead, P2 at the moment in the Alpine Esports Series with 40 points and a small margin to the cars behind. Now, Luke, welcome in. Good to have you here.
Hello, good evening. Hope you're doing well.
Now, Luke, the next track will be the Nurburgring, right? How many hours of practice have you gotten under your belt so far?
I'll be completely honest, not a huge amount. I've done a few laps, obviously, as you kind of expect with a championship that's this high stakes, and I got pretty comfortable pretty quickly. I mean, I know the car decently well. Obviously, in the first few rounds, I've had a chance to kind of learn what works, what doesn't work, and how to drive the car, I guess. I would have preferred Hungaroring, but of course, the people have spoken and they voted Nurburgring, which again, is a very twisty and technical track, which tends to play a little bit more into my hands than the long, kind of monotonous circuits that I like to call them. But yeah, I'm excited for it. I mean, it's a very, very difficult track, especially to race around in the same machinery against some extremely talented guys. But I'm excited for the challenge that it will hold.
All right. Now, knowing, right, that you're currently P2 in the championship, which equates to 25,000 Alpine fan tokens, plus the sim racing gear that's attached to it. Are you getting nervous already at the moment for the event that's going to happen very soon?
It's difficult to say. I mean, not a huge amount. Obviously, it's partially because we're not at the event or we're not starting the race like promptly, which I guess, when you get closer to the race, the nerves are always going to get there. But for me, I just know I have faith in myself that I can, get a good result. And obviously, there's some super quick guys. Obviously, James Baldwin, who's leading in the championship. You've got George Boothby, Marco Pajic, Andrea Miato, Michele Nurby, who are all right behind me, snapping up my heels. So you've got really quick guys, but ultimately I've just got to keep my head on my shoulders. I've been concentrating. I've been put in this position many times. Obviously, as I say, I'm a real life, or I used to be a real life racing driver, so I know the pressure and I know what it takes to win. So I've just got to do what I always do, and hopefully things will work out as they should.
Yeah, cool. So you're talking about having been a real time or a real life racing driver, right?
Yes.
Would the prize money perhaps go to trying to drive again in real life?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of money, in just general terms. And obviously, I'm only 18, so for me, it's even more, incredible to even have the prospect of earning that much, on the plate in front of me. So it's quite nerve-wracking, but for me, I haven't really thought too hard about what I'm going to put it towards, whether that's to real-life racing. Obviously, I want to get back in a real car because, there's nothing like it. I think sim racing is getting pretty close in my books, though. But yeah, it's, as I say, it's a lot of money. There's not a lot you can really do in real life racing for that amount, but it's a start.
For sure.
Who knows? One test day is all it sometimes takes. So, we'll see what happens.
So have you thought about, apart from like perhaps going to a real life competition or something, or getting the step up there, have you thought about what you're going to do with your Alpine fan tokens if you win at the end of the championship, or if you get P2 or P3, because those are all going to be scoring you some Alpine fan tokens, of course?
Yeah. I mean, it's, as I said, it's a lot of money. There's a lot that you can put towards. Obviously, there's generic stuff like I'd like a car. There's other stuff as well. There's clothing, the normal generic stuff. Someone might go and buy some shoes. But for me, I haven't really thought about it too much because, as I mentioned, I used to be a real life driver, so I know that nothing's guaranteed. So I know that all I've got to do is just keep my head on my shoulders, keep my feet on the ground, because as soon as I let it get to my head, that's when mistakes happen. So I've just got to keep it cool, and to be honest, I have been keeping it cool. I've not had any major mistakes in the Alpine series so far, which for me in such a big high profile series is quite I'm happy with it. So as long as I just keep the consistency up, that's what's going to get the prizes. So yeah, just concentrating on the job at hand for now.
Fingers crossed. Now, looking back at race 1 and race 2, right, like you've been talking about, what are the key takeaways or stuff that you've learned, perhaps maybe even from those first 2 rounds?
I think for me, just patience. I mean, Barcelona, I admit I jumped the gun in terms of how confident I felt I was. Obviously Barcelona is a very, very difficult track, and it was a track that I didn't have a huge amount of experience with. But I kind of expected to have a bit more pace than what I sort of had. I'll admit I was maybe a little bit complacent and wasn't really driving the car correctly. And obviously, looking at how James, who was the quickest guy there, looking at how he drove the car, I was able to kind of see some things and some techniques, and also maybe some setup tricks that he had that I was able to just kind of look at. And obviously, Paul Ricard, I was a lot stronger, especially in the wet, where I think I was at one point probably the quickest on track. So I know that the positives were there, and I was learning stuff from the car. And I guess being really smooth and just waiting for the car to respond through the corners is very, very crucial. Obviously, GT4s, they're heavier than the GT3s. They've got less aero, so you've really got to be waiting for the car to respond, because if you try and force it through like you would in a GT3, the car's just going to skate straight on, and obviously that's not ideal for anyone, especially given that the suspension travels a lot more, the car's a lot more lethargic, and the brakes don't work as well, which means that any mistakes that you do make, it's harder to respond. So yeah, key takeaways for me, just keeping it smooth and not losing your head, just keeping a level head, and no matter what happens, dig deep and knowing that I'm able to make it happen.
For sure. Very interesting to hear about your experiences with the Alpine A110 car, of course, as well, that is being used in the championship. Now, was the Alpine fan token prize pool like the main incentive for you to participate in the Alpine Esports Series, or how did you get to know about the championship?
I mean, I watched it last year. I sort of wanted to enter it, but I was too young. So looking at it this year, I was kind of like, I might as well do that. And obviously seeing the prize tokens and the other prizes that go with it, because let's not forget, it's not just the tokens, it's the lights, it's the gloves, it's the boots. And, I mean, my gloves, I'll try and show them on camera, but they're kind of falling apart at the moment. So in my head, I'm kind of like, there's other stuff, and obviously this room's a little bit bare, so I'd like to decorate it with some lights and stuff. But no, jokes aside, I know obviously from last year, it's a very high profile series, obviously with a name like Alpine, and with the awareness that holds, obviously with the big brands that are involved, fingers crossed that
Great to hear from Luke there. And as we speak, the qualifying session is just about to get underway. We're going to be going to the track in just a second to see how Luke and everyone else gets on. Thom, knowing nothing about what the track conditions are, knowing nothing about anything else, Your prediction
Rain.
for pole today?
Rain.
Rain. Oh, that'd be good. Yeah, okay.
I'm gonna say rain. Prediction for pole. I think because it's only a 7-minute long qualifying session, I think we're gonna see some upsets. Somebody who's gonna get stuck somewhere. We have a track that is very, very, very narrow, so there's gonna be somebody who gets in the way, something like that, and we'll see some drivers having trouble setting their first laps on the timing board. That is what I think is going to happen here around this track. As we're actually out in qualifying right now, 5 minutes and 48 seconds to go. Nobody has set a lap time yet, and we're currently on board with Luke Whitehead, who we have just actually spoken to. Let's see if his pressure is not going to get to his head, right? Just like we talked about in the interview itself. But at the moment, he seems very, very calm, doesn't he, Chris?
He does. Great work from the stream director there, obviously paying attention and trying to thread the story together very nicely for everyone watching. Luke, as you can see from the track map on the right, is second in the train. He got out nice and early, which is really critical here because, well, we've got 5 minutes of the session or so remaining. It'll be just under that. He's really only going to get time for 2 complete time laps and might just about get across again for a third, whereas those further back in the pack are really only going to have time to do 2 timed laps. James Baldwin is one of those people a little bit further into the pack. In fact, he's at the front of the pack, excuse me. The change of camera just slightly caught me off guard there as he takes the line to start his first flying lap. Baldwin, as we said, has been limited on his practice because he's been playing about with real-world cars. Has had to park his sim for a little bit and go off to Belgium, where he's going to be taking part in the 24 hours of Spa in a moment's time almost. And yeah, what a situation to find himself in. Tonight he's leading the championship, and he's going to be going into arguably the greatest GT race in the world very shortly, Tom.
For sure. And as I'm looking, it looks like it's going to become a little bit darker. And as it becomes darker, it's also going to be harder to spot those braking zones. But at the moment, both James Baldwin and Luke Whitehead, number 1 and number 2 in the championship, have actually scored a very good position on the track to do their laps. And that is going to be crucial. It just seems like they are a little bit ahead of the game, not only in pace, but also in how smart they are in picking the position on the track. Now, as we're on board right here with Luke Whitehead, coming through the middle part of the track right now. Where are they gonna come out? It's gonna be super close to the inside, and when I actually did a couple of runs, I hit that inside curb right there, and that is exactly what you do not want to do. So make sure, for those of you who are watching at home, to keep an eye out on those who hit the curb there, because if you do, it's gonna become very, very unsettling. Now, 3.5 minutes left in the session, and slowly but surely the cars are coming through the last couple of turns almost to get their first lap in here. James Baldwin looking pretty decent, but so far we don't really know who is going to be getting that P1 spot right here. Very aggressive on the chicane here, almost hitting the inside cone through the last and final turn. Then very close to the inside. Will he be able to use the maximum of the track as well on the exit? Yes, he does. Almost goes onto the gravel, and it's going to go over the line. It will be a P1, of course, but what type of lap time is it going to be? It's going to be 2.5 then slower than Luke Whitehead at the moment with a 2.8, and Marco Pejic coming in P2 as well, Chris.
Yeah, close at the front, as we've come to expect. Those few corners we saw at the end of the lap from Baldwin, using every millimetre of the track, even in the braking zones, just the shadow of the tyre was over on the grass. He could not have been any closer. So very much using everything available to him, but still a 10th down on Luke Whitehead. So game on, I think, Tom.
Game on for sure. We've seen in the past, in the previous qualifying sessions in round 1 and 2, James Baldwin straight away going to the top, even though he probably hasn't gotten in as much practice as he would have wanted to. He is actually still up there, but not quite at the top, as George Boothby actually goes in P2, and he needs that P2 here, as he's currently in P3, only 1 point behind of Luke Whitehead, with Luke Whitehead at the moment in P1, of course, for the moment, because there's still 1 minute and 45 seconds left, meaning 1 more lap. Now, Chris, compared to the first lap here, do you think they're going to start taking more risks now? Is it going to be, was it a banker, or do you think, no, it's going to be full risk on the first lap and the second lap?
Well, I don't think you've got time to really set a banker in these kind of situations. But something we haven't mentioned yet is this is night qualifying, or dusk qualifying, if you will. 7:40 p.m. The sun will have been down for at least an hour or so, looking at the track conditions. And these GT4 cars don't have tyre blankets, so you've just got that one lap to get the tyres up to temperature, up to pressure, and in their ideal operating window. So I would expect times to come down anyway, and time differentials we see at the moment might well be down to the sort of strategy that's at play. Maybe James Baldwin and some of the other people a little bit further down than they'd expect on their first lap are trying to optimize their pressures and tire temps and tire life for slightly later in the run. See, we are watching Marco Pajic now, who's fairly early on in the train of cars.
P1
through P1, great time on his. I'm not sure if that's his first or second lap there. I think it must be his second, because he was almost last in the queue. And we're seeing 27 seconds left. We are definitely going to have a bunch of drivers that only managed to get 2 timed laps. George Boothby will be the test here. He was quite a way forward in that train. He comes through the chicane before the final turn into this long sweeping right-hander. Looks very squirrely as he comes off the curb. Has to wait to get on the power. Currently 3/10 up. What a great run so far from George Boothby. Let's see what he manages as he goes across the line. Predictably, P1, even with that little moment coming off of the curb, it's still only 1/10 quicker than Marco Pajic at the top. All of these people, except James Baldwin, are the top 4 in the championships. The top 3 currently are all fighting for top 4. James Baldwin down in P7. We'll see as he completes his second lap what is going to happen there. We're looking at Luke Whitehead coming through the Michael Schumacher S now. Still got a little way to go in the rest of his lap, Tom.
For sure, and at the moment, Nurby is already out. We can see Romanoli is out as well, as we can see some drifting going on there then. Yellow flags as well, so we got to watch out for some drivers that could become some debris here on the track for Luke Whitehead. He looks focused as ever though, and looks like he's determined to go and go for pole position. Luke Whitehead at the moment, only 1/10 up though, and he needs 2/10, or 0.193 to be exact. Can he go and attack the last couple of corners? He will. Will that be enough though to get that last and final jump? 3/10 up right now, which would mean he gets the fastest lap here as he drifts through the last corner, and it looks like Luke Whitehead is not gonna go and get P1 right here. He loses out in the last and final corner. Baldwin is up though, 4/10 up, and it's only 63,000, and James Baldwin just about manages to lose out on pole position, but he's very, very close behind. We're still though going with Herzing right now in P12, 9/10 behind with his previous fastest lap. But oh my goodness, you can see the sparks coming off of the track right there. Last corner, but will he be able to keep it on track? Because we've seen a couple of drifts going in, 3/10 up, and that would put him around P9 or in the top 10 at the very least, the point scoring position. In P9 then, Herzing comes over the track with Bastida at the moment coming through the last and final turn as well. It's gonna be a P26 for him, 1 position gain. Holy moly, Chris, what a qualifying. There were position changes all over the place. And that infamous moment where Luke Whitehead perhaps did crumble under pressure. What do you think?
Well, I certainly couldn't tell you if he crumbled under pressure. What I can tell you is that going through the final chicane, he took a massive amount of curbs, smashed across both of the curbs, looked very, very busy. The car bouncing around looked very unsettled. Coming off of the curb into the final corner, we saw the car bouncing around further still, and then that drift that you quite nicely commented over there, Tom, I must say. I felt like I was in the car. And yeah, you're going to lose so much time as the car slides, and you just wait for the grip to reconnect and be able to get back on the power. And those 3/10 he was up before he went into that final chicane, all gone in the last 3 corners, the last, 10 seconds of the lap, sadly.
For sure. And now this start will be crucial here, knowing that the first turn is a tricky one. If you're on the inside, you kind of have the corner, because it's very, very easy to look up. And if you have the inside, the one on the outside has to give you some space. It's a very wide corner, though. But of course, as the track goes downwards, it's like I said, very easy to look up. So we got to watch out here. Let's see who is going to pick that inside and who picks the outside. Because if there's no lockups, around the outside could be a good place to be as well. But you're going to put yourselves in a very, very risky situation, because if you're on the outside and somebody looks up, you're not going to be able to keep it going, keep it rolling, and you might lose a lot of positions here. Now, George Boothby, who is currently in P3 in the standings, is going to go for that attack here on Luke Whitehead, who is out of position, as he's in the championship in P2 at the moment. So George Boothby can score some very, very, very valuable points over Luke Whitehead. But who knows? As we have Pejic in the middle as well, Pejic is going to be able to score some points over Whitehead as well. But it's going to be a long race. I mean, it's going to be 15 minutes of sprint race. And as we've seen in the previous few races, a lot can happen in 15 minutes. But we go on board. And Chris, you can take it away for the start of the sprint race, the Alpine Esports Series Grand Finale.
Well, thankfully, we actually have a full formation lap here. At some of the previous events, we've only had the shortened formation lap that you can get in Assetto Corsa Competizione. And with these GT4 cars with, as I said, no tyre blankets, and only 2 or 3 corners to bring everything up to temperature, it's can be a bit tricky. So you see the nice aerial shot of the Nurburgring GP circuit there. Off to the lower left, if you're not familiar, is the famous Nordschleife. The 2 circuits join together during various endurance events where they need to use the modern pit lane facilities. Not doing that tonight, as we see George Boothby doing a little bit of tyre warming there. I suspect a lot more of it will be happening on the brakes than it will be through weaving, as he takes out the cones on the outside there, just to... That's a strategy, taking out some of the brake markers that the competition might be using. I think George using the old clever brain there for that one. It's another late session as we start the race at sunset. The sun's already off the track. We're going to have nice low track temperatures, as you can see, pretty much matching the ambient temperature. That potentially drop a tiny bit through the session, although we've only got 15 minutes, as you mentioned. This short sprint race will only competing for 10 points for the first place finish. So if James Baldwin wants to wrap this up in round 1 tonight, he needs a win, or for Luke Whitehead and George Boothby to finish ideally outside of the top 3. Would make life a little bit easier for him, but we will see. It's not all about James Baldwin. In fact, most of our top 10 point scorers are starting the race in the top 10, so lots to play for here tonight, Thom.
100%. And like I said, there could be a very deciding event happening in the first turn already. I'm actually very interested to know, do you think the first turn is going to be a very important part here in the outcome of the rest of the race?
For sure, yeah. I think cold tyres, even with the tyre warming, it's always fun to break from pretty much VMAX down to pretty much stationary in one of the tighter corners on the calendar. It always provides fireworks. I would expect to see a bit of contact maybe in the mid-pack as you get the concertina effect. And to go back to your point earlier, whether I'd want the inside or the outside, obviously inside has the high ground, but to make an Alpine reference, because I kind of have to, Fernando Alonso always seems to do pretty well running around the outside in the first couple of turns of his Grand Prix these days. So maybe it's not so bad as we see George Boothby bring the pack through the final chicane into the final turn, and hopefully everyone's nice and prepped, tyres up to temperature, tyres up to pressure, and all ready to go. Look at James Baldwin, they're very aggressively accelerating and braking to get the temperature in. Thom,
now here we go then.
Take it away.
It's time for the sprint race in the grand finale of the Alpine Esports Series, with George Boothby currently leading away, but as they go over the line, it's going to be full throttle into the first turn. Will they take the inside or will they take the outside? As it's green, green, green for the last and final race. James Baldwin with a very, very good start takes the outside right there. George Boothby covering off the inside. I can see a lot of drivers opting to go and take their normal position. George Boothby keeping the inside though and doesn't go deep. Yes, he does. He does, and oh no, it's going to be James Baldwin who gets hit from behind. A mayhem until the first turn. A lot of drivers getting hit there, and it's going to be an upset. James Baldwin is going to not score any points if anything crazy happens here still. My goodness, Chris, did you expect that to happen?
I expected it to happen slightly further back in the pack, but actually to have a spin across the track there in the braking zone is a little unusual. Normally it's Normally it's a little bit more controlled and someone just gets punted around as you sort of end up with cars at 90 degrees to each other. But as you saw, I wasn't sure if it was Luke Whitehead or Nurby behind that span. Obviously not Luke Whitehead, who is currently running further up the pack. But yeah, real shame to see that happen. One of the big championship contenders taken out. In fact, it does look like it was Whitehead there, who locked it up under braking by the looks of things and just lost the back end. Right at the front, though, we see all sorts going on. I'm going to have to wait for the timing tower to update just to be sure who the big winners and losers there. But the big winner very clearly was George Boothby, who didn't get 100% best start, slightly outgunned by Baldwin, but put the car where he needed to be, braked a little bit later than maybe he could have, and just shut the door on Baldwin, who was left high and dry around the outside, Tom.
Remember, you can claim your Alpine airdrop if you are not yet, if you have not yet done so. If you're not yet a Binance user, you can claim your Alpine airdrop, scan the QR code that is in the screen right now, and perhaps you're going to be able to get a chance at getting one of those prizes as well for signing up through the QR code for the Alpine airdrop. Now, as we're on board right now with Luke Whitehead, George Boothby leading away still with Nurby right behind, who can score some huge points in this race right here, because Nurby at the moment is in P6 with 27 points. If he manages to score a big point haul, he might be able to already go and get promoted a couple of positions in the championship, so that going into that last race he'll maybe be a little bit more confident and thinking that he maybe can get some more positions, and there's still potential to finish in P2 there. Now, of course, the sprint race right here is going to be less points, right? The win is going to be 10 points, with the win in the feature race, which will happen right after this race, being 25. But you can see lots of cars super close to each other in that slipstream, and all the cones have been driven out of the track, so no one knows where to brake anymore. But I guess with the practice they have put in, they for sure know exactly where to brake, even though they don't see it. Oh, but look at that! A little bit of a battle. Hoppy and Muscat right there, side by side, and it's going to be an overtake around the outside in that turn. A very, very close battling here, and you can see they're using all of the track. There might be a little bit of an out-braking into the braking zone going on here, as he's super close. He's looking, but very good defensive moves there to keep the inside and basically run him out of the track there. And actually, as he went for an attacking move, the car behind goes for the opportunity and creates an overtake as well. So, like we've seen in the previous races, oh, look at that, that's gonna be close.
Yeah,
close enough.
Side by side through the Schumacher S's. I was a bit brave. They somehow managed to keep it all together. You mentioned Sheldon Muscat there, who's in for Arthur Sarnecki tonight, who couldn't make the race, fighting with Leon Hopper. The other big loser right at the beginning there of our championship contenders was, of course, Luke Whitehead, who we saw down in P6 a moment ago, caught up in that initial melee. I think he was behind Baldwin and had to sort of go around the outside. It'd be interesting to look back on that one a little bit later and pull it all apart. But right now we've got some fantastic battling in the midfield, as taking a lot of grass there on the inside of the chicane. It's fairly brave, but it seems to be working for Carlo Delia.
I love how every single car is looking for a different positioning on the track. You can see they're looking, and also by basically showing themselves in the mirror of the car in front, trying to provoke some mistakes there from the drivers in front. And of course, being in P24, you know you're going to be able to have to pull on some very, very good moves. As you can see, Delia now putting in a very, very good move as well to make that overtake. In the meantime, it's Luke Whitehead who has actually made an overtake for P5 and currently has gone and put Brouwer right behind of him. George Boothby is the fastest lap holder at the moment, and currently already out of a second of Michel Nurby, who is in P2. Whitehead seems determined. He seems like he wants to go and put that mistake behind of him, if we were correct that he outbraked himself a little bit in the first turn, in the first lap, but he is not going to be sitting there and doing nothing. He wants to go and make up the grid, and he's super, super close right now as well. Towards Zidlo in P10, the last point scoring position there, as we have a little bit of a moment in the midfield. It's Strancanelli having a very, very big battle with Kalogzai, and they're going side by side into, I think this is Schumacher, right?
Yeah, once again, that outbraking maneuver into the Dunlop hairpin, all very well and good until you arrive at the Schumacher S, and that's exactly what you said not to do, Tom, as we saw
Oh no.
dragging the gravel, and very, very late braking there, absolutely torpedoing the other car. Not something you want to see.
No, for sure. I saw them going 3 wide there. I was straight away like, oh no, because that's not going to end well here. Going 3 wide around a very narrow track, knowing that the turn is going to go left, and 3 drivers have to make it through that turn there. Super close though, going on to the next turn, and we can see a little bit of a dive on the inside, a very hard braking zone, and now, a little bit of a gap as well there, having to go over the grass, and it is actually one of the cars going for a profit there, as some of them have been battling, and that's what I'm saying. You don't necessarily always want to go on the attack.
So we've seen Whitehead has managed to make up to P4 now, got past Horsing. He was getting closer, but as everyone in the midfield was pinging off with each other, we missed the overtake there, sadly. A number of things going on there, and I think the most critical of all, Tom, is the fact that the grass on the inside of that chicane seems to have infinite grip.
For sure, and well, maybe the track instructors have asked them to go and mow the grass. Maybe they were behind a couple of years, but it's definitely getting mowed in this race. That inside of that curve. Let's see if it is quicker. We have seen some incidents happen in that turn. I don't know if it's quicker if you go side by side through that corner. But yeah, like I was talking about, if you go side by side there, you're going to lose time. And then you're going to be vulnerable to the car behind. And through the entirety of the championship, we've seen that happen. As we can see an overtake happen right here on the inside. Not quite, because there's a very, very hard braking zone going on there. And this is the battle for P10 or for P7. They're super close. Now, as we can see, they're literally bump drafting almost, going through the Schumacher.
Yeah, I think the story here is we caught just the end of this. We've got a replay of the start. So let's watch to see what happens here. It's car number 6 losing the... we have multiple contact. It wasn't... Wow, that was a bit of a pinball effect going on that started the whole chain of events, and then significantly more pinballing afterwards. So
it was a little bit of a tap from the car behind on Luke Whitehead's rear. Then that caused the bowling alley to go and say strike, strike, strike. And then, of course...
car number 6 there, sorry to interject, is Alessandro Cappa, who is standing in for Manuel Rodriguez. This is his first roll of the dice in the Alpine Esports Series, in his first corner, perhaps not covering himself in glory, not the way he'd want to do that. Just to recap what I was saying before that replay came through, we saw, just cut to the aftermath of Victor Nicolai having a little bit of a moment. He was running in P7, he was down in P10 behind Gael Valero. He's now got past him. Does look to be the quicker of this train of cars, but as you were saying, this battle for P7 to 10, and this is a replay of the Luke Whitehead overtake we missed. Beautiful little, caught him sleeping into the long right-hander. Very easy to come a cropper there with those kind of moves if the other guy doesn't see you, but absolutely beautifully executed, and beautifully executed by both, as we see Victor Nicolai again on the attack.
And he's overtaken for P9 because he was right behind of Valero right now. It looks like Victor Nicolai, who wasn't in the top 10 in the qualifying session, is looking to make up some ground. Very close to Bouquet as well. And perhaps even if he can try and brake later here, which he does, he can try and position the car. What I'm thinking try and position the car for an overtake later on. If you do it right here already, it's only going to hurt you in the end. But he's looking for sure. And Bouquet is looking as well, but not in front of him, but behind. But now we can see still this battle super close, and now because Valero is closing up, it's Nicolai who's a little bit stuck here. So Valero straight away putting some pressure once again on Victor Nicolai. How is this going to end? Are we going to see all of them going 4 wide in the last couple of laps? We have 5 minutes remaining in this race, and then of course after that we have the feature race as well. So for all of you at home who are currently on the edge of your seats, you better get ready, because this is not the only racing you're gonna get today, and it's about to become serious. Now,
Tom, I think there are 2 things, 2 universal truths in the Alpine Esports Series. One is that James Baldwin's going to be involved in the conversation one way or another, and the other is that we're going to spend an inordinate amount of time watching Victor Nicolai, because he is always involved in the action one way or another.
100%, and of course, because he's actually participated in the first ever Alpine Esports Series, where I participated in as well. He already has some experience, right? Knowing how to drive with these 30 cars on the track, which is very, very valuable experience to have. As some of the other drivers, perhaps in the midfield right now or at the back, do not have yet that experience. So, as we have a little bit of a battle right here between 3 of the cars, they are looking to get past straight away, because then they can start hunting for that P10. Some defensive moves going on here, positioning the car so that the car behind can't launch it up the inside, but in doing so, losing some time to the car in front of Calandrino here.
Yeah, so speaking of experience, actually, a story that I didn't quite have time to pick up on earlier is our invitational driver managed to pick himself up a drive-through penalty during the start sequence, so maybe showing his lack of experience in Assetto Corsa Competizione and how you have to take the starts. Yeah, George Bowen, there we go. Excellent work again from the race director to pick that stuff up. And you were quite right, Thom.
There you go.
In VR, and it looks like he's just having a nice look round, enjoying the scenery in ACC, rather driving around on his own after serving that drive-through penalty. Only James Baldwin behind him, who is in the pits and has clearly decided to retire. Nothing to gain back there. But here we go. Matthias Kuhn battling Nurby ahead of him. Got Luke Whitehead second and a half behind, a little out of touch at the moment. But we've seen Matthias Kuhn's been very
and there's a penalty for Bouquet at the moment. 5 seconds. 5 seconds for the car of Bouquet.
So we will pick up on what that is. Looks like that might be a manually applied penalty. As we see Nurby make a mistake. McCunn was lining himself up for the slipstream down the start-finish straight, and well, just has the door open for him. He's on the inside, and I would imagine with that launch he got off the corner, it's very much job done now. In fact, could almost move over to the racing line to take his rightful position through the corner there, Thom.
100%, and this is not the first time we see cars drifting through the last corner. It's almost as if that last corner isn't situated in Germany, in the Nurburgring, but in Japan, in Tokyo, as they're drifting around like crazy, and it costing, of course, a very good position for Luke Whitehead in the qualifying session, but in this race, it costing a position for Nurby. Now, Kuhn can look further up in front, now the gap, of course, becoming a little bit bigger, so I guess if Woodby doesn't make a big mistake, this win is his to lose or to win, because it seems like he doesn't need that much pressure here still to go and get over the line with 1 lap left to go, with the laps being around 2 minutes or so. I guess we'll see 1 lap after this. Now, Nurby still right behind, and actually it's Kuhn still going a little bit deep here, so they're still very close with Luke Whitehead, because they were battling, now closing it as well. And there's another penalty in the midfield by Kappa, plus 10 seconds applied to his race time.
If I had to guess, I would guess that's probably a track limits penalty, but I'm sure that'll be clarified. It was really interesting watching that onboard from Matthias Kuhn there for the first sector of the lap, watching him battling understeer in the car and then massive oversteer through the long corners in the Mercedes arena. It looks like, despite the track being optimum, it's probably quite low grip compared to where it could be, and maybe that's a tyre temps thing. I couldn't possibly speculate, but what I can tell you is these cars are not looking as planted as they could do, and that's causing drivers to make mistakes. Everyone, seemingly with the exception of George Boothby, who's pulled a nice tidy 2-second gap at the front, and is going to come and take the start-finish line to start his final lap of the race.
Taking a drink? Did you see that? He was taking a drink on the straight. That's what I call efficiency. Being in P1.
Part of the lap, he's not going sideways, Thom.
That's true. But I mean, he only has 1 lap to go. Imagine taking a drink and oopsie, and then his win is gone. I would never be able to be that composed there in the race. That's amazing to see. But like we said, it is the last and final lap. The clock is ticking, and boom, 0-0-0. Meaning, when they go over the line, the next time around, it's gonna be a race done for the sprint race. As you see, somebody going very wide now behind, and battles going on in P8 as Bouquet gets overtaken and goes a little bit off track there then for the positions, and I think he's now dropping down to P10, and that, with his 5-second penalty, will mean he is out of the points. So
yeah, that's a big mistake there. He was running in P8, has dropped down to P13, so lost 5 positions on track, and at least 3 more behind in terms of time. So a bit of a nightmare there as we see Boothby struggling a little bit as he got back on the power coming out of the Dunlop hairpin. Watch as he goes through the Schumacher S's, balancing the car a little bit. It doesn't look too bad, actually, Tom. I think it looks fairly pleasant. Now, these next couple of corners are quite technical, so we'll see how the car's performing. Just balancing a little bit, tiny little corrections. Doesn't look too bad. He's not really struggling with it, as commentators curse immediately, and we watch him wrestle the car.
For sure. I mean, let's hope he's not going to take a drink as he goes over the line. Actually, I would actually quite like that. But he only has a couple of corners left to go, and I don't think he's going to take a drink right before the end here. So, coming through the last 2 turns, very, very, very quick over the chicane. Doesn't necessarily use all the cross. He doesn't have to, because there's only 1 turn left through the last turn. And ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be the winner, George Boothby, as he crosses the line, and he celebrates for sure. 10 points for George Boothby, with Koen right behind him P2, Nurby P3, and Luke Whitehead, who had a little bit of a scruffy race here. A lot of big chaos there at the start, and then of course having to get back up the grid. Still P4 for him though, making up a couple of positions, and then for Zidlo in P7 there, with the last point scoring position being for Victor Nicolai, the veteran in the Alpine Esports Series. Now, Chris, the biggest surprise here is that James Baldwin did not score points. Do you think that now, after this race here, is he gonna start feeling the need to do extra good here in the second race? Or do you think, no, he's still gonna be James Baldwin and just do his best, and he'll get that position there? He'll get a good position and finish off in P1.
Well, the pressure's certainly on. This definitely wasn't what he was planning for his evening's racing, for sure. To pick up on a couple of things there, George Boothby picking up the win. That's his first win since the very opening sprint race back in Barcelona. Nurby as well, finishing P3, his first podium since that initial opening round as well. So a couple of people sort of bringing themselves back into contention. And with Luke Whitehead not scoring as many points as he could have from that, George Boothby picking up the win in the sprint race, I would say I don't have the updated points in front of me, but I imagine it's going to look pretty close at the top. With I think Baldwin will still have a 15-point advantage. Oh, there we go. Excellent, excellent work on the results there. So as you see, George with Nurby and Whitehead following behind. Luke Whitehead really could have done with picking up some more. He's now dropped. 19 points behind James Baldwin, who didn't score. George Boothby now the man to watch in race 2 to see if he is the one that can really stop the challenge of James Baldwin.
100%. George Boothby already being quite close to him, now closing in by 10 points and getting, of course, 49 points in total after this last race. Meaning George Boothby will be only, if I count correctly, 15 points. Yes, indeed. Quick maths. Right behind of James Baldwin. And Luke Whitehead drops 1 position to P3, and that's not what he wanted in this race. However, now the big race will come up very, very soon, with Pejic now P4, Miyato P5, and we are going to go into an interview with George Bowen, GB6, or George Boothby, the winner of the race. The winner of the race, George Boothby. Yo, I saw you drink. I saw you drink on the straight. What was that about? Did you have that much brain capacity left to do that there then?
No, it was my brain capacity leaving me because it is so hot. It is just so hot. So I got a really good quali lap in. So obviously starting on pole, can't go wrong there. I was so happy with that. And then I don't even know what happened. Turn 1, everyone crashed behind me. So I just put in the purple lap and then thought, I'm taking it easy. Let's just keep a gap and just make sure we don't mess up. And thankfully, I managed to do that. So the guys behind me were going, look, closing up a bit. But every time they did, I just pushed a bit harder. So it's just about managing the race, because I could have been an idiot and gone quali lap every lap at front. But I feel like if I did that, the chance of crashing are quite high. So no, I was really happy with how I did that race. And hopefully this next race can go just as well.
Well, absolutely. First of all, congratulations on the win. A little question about the conditions out there. We saw a lot of cars sliding around, perhaps more than at Barcelona or Paul Ricard. Was that a factor of track temperatures, or was it just everyone being a bit more desperate?
I think it's that, and also there's people have twigged on that not using traction control is quicker if you can control it. So I think that's why a lot of people, you might see a bit more sliding now, because everyone's trying to get everything out of the car. Now they've had, a few races to really get up to speed. So, if you want those last few temps, you gotta do it without traction control. And yeah, you get a bit more speed, but obviously it's like high risk, high reward. Wait. Yeah, I think I got that right.
That's the one. That's the one. It's all right. Thom has already made the first Tokyo Drift reference of the night, so we've got that out of the way. And well, let's keep this short and simple then, George. Best of luck for race 2. You're now P2 in the championship, and well, everything to play for.
Nice one. Thank you very much. Hopefully, I can. I don't know if P1's possible, but
I mean, you gotta go for it.
You gotta go for it.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm going to go for the win, and who knows, what happened in that race could happen again. So, let's go.
Good luck, mate.
Thank you.
Now, George Boothby, the winner of this sprint race, and someone who is going to be, or well, not someone, the one who is going to be able to be the closest here to James Baldwin. Chris, what do you think of his chances being 15 points? 15 points meaning, of course, he would have to outscore James Baldwin by 16 points. Imagine if he outscores him by 15 points.
Well, it means he's got to finish P1 or P2, and for James Baldwin to score with 0 points, it's going to be a real tough ask. But what I like about George is he always looks so surprised that he's done well. He's so humble that he actually looks almost apologetic for the fact that he's done really well. We are just going to go to a very quick video, and we'll be right back with you.
One thing that's really special about this track racer simulator is that we try to make the seating position as close to Formula 1 as possible, while also having the GT option. We're almost lying down, and that's what we try to replicate here.
The Track Racer TRX is a hybrid simulator that allows the user to switch between F1 and GT seating position by adjusting the position of the wheel, the seat and the pedals.
I think the TRX is, compared to an F1 simulator, is as best as you can have at home. The throttle, is very smooth when you get on it. You can really feel what you are doing with the car.
I think the new TRX simulator is one of the best I ever saw in the market. I think you have best of both worlds in one sim. You can do GT, you can do Formula 1.
You can adjust the seating position really easily. Anyone can do it. So we've got this nice bucket seat shape that hugs you in, and also you can adjust the position so that you're in a proper racing position.
So sim racing and Formula 1 seem to be coming really close together. Obviously the pandemic forced a lot more of our racing into the virtual world. You could say the future talent comes from esports into Formula 1.
Sim racing is getting really, really big, and I think more and more drivers are getting from sim racing to motorsport, to real racing.
Simulators and racing sims are a good way of getting into motor racing. I know quite a few drivers that have done that in the past.
The work on the simulator can really improve our performance on the track. We have seen we work a lot on the simulator with Alpine.
Obviously in Formula 1 we're operating the absolute pinnacle of motorsport. The TRX starts to bring esports to that same level of performance. It's equipment for the very best at the very top end of the market.
I do want a TRX track racer, yeah, definitely. Please.
And we are back. We're going to take another quick look at the championship standings, so Thom and I can test our math skills. As we said, George Boothby 15 points behind. He needs a P2 or a P1 in this final race. 25 points available for the winner, 18 points available for P2. And he also needs James Baldwin to have another no score, or maybe score 1 or 2 points, depending on where he finishes there. Luke Whitehead, almost out of contention. If he wins this and Boothby and Baldwin both fail to score and he pick up like a lowly 10th or 9th place, he might have a chance. And then we still have this tight battle for P4 where well, pretty much anything can happen. And to quote Thom just in the break there, that start was nuts. And if we see a repeat, and I really hope we don't, but if we see a repeat of something like that in race 2, well, I think absolutely anything could happen. And there's a lot of money on the line between these midfield positions. So lots of potential. And for people like Victor Nicolai, for example, who I think we watched for about 4 laps solid in the middle of that race, as we always seem to do, because he always finds himself one way or another in the thick of the action. If you're down in P8, 9 or 10 and you pick up a great result in this final race, you're suddenly catapulted up to maybe 4th or 5th in the championship, and your earning potential sort of quadruples or goes up tenfold. It's almost impossible to make any kind of predictions at this stage, other than the racing's going to be exciting because, well, we are now 5 races out of 6 in this championship, and every single one of them's been action-packed. There were stories Thom and I were trying to catch up on during that race, and it took several laps to get through all of them. My notepad is almost useless because you've got no time to relay any information about what's going on because the next thing has happened. And that's a good problem to have, Thom.
And remember, the top 3 here are able to go and win it still, Chris. The top 3. So in this last and final race, even though the gap to P1 is still a little bit bigger, everyone can still win. So let's see who will win it in the end. Now, let's have a quick word from BenQ right about now.
My name is Richard Arnaud. I am the team principal of Alpine Esports and president and founder of the company Race Clutch. Race Clutch and Alpine have worked together for a bit more than a year now, a brand new partnership to take care of Alpine and its entry into the world of esports, managing all its activities related to the virtual world of racing. This new entity implies a lot of stuff. This is not only gamers behind their computers, there is a whole staff and people around them to ensure their performances. We can think about engineers to develop the cars in-game or around the human performances with the coaches, psychological approaches and neurovisual training to make sure that the drivers of Alpine Esports are at their best performances when they are competing. But outside of the track, there is also a lot of things around the performances, the human performances. We're thinking about the physical training of the drivers, but also a lot around their visual training and the acuity of the information that they are seeing at the screen. And that's why we are very pleased to welcome Shamir as a new partner into the Alpine Esports family, helping us to reach new heights in terms of performances and in terms of visual acuity for the driver. And thanks to them, Patrick Sipos has been involved into our first project together with the virtual 24 hours of Le Mans.
Hello guys, my name is Patrick Sipos. I come from Hungary. I'm 18 years old and I'm a professional F1 esports driver for Alpine F1 team. So my day looks like that. I come to the office. After that, I go into the simulator. and then just drive all day. You can have like 5 to 8 hours per day, but usually the average is like around 6 to 7 hours per day, which can be really tiring. So for preparing for races, we do exercises with a professional trainer. But besides that, we take care of our body by eating healthy and just sleeping well and just the normal stuff, keeping that in the main focus, and that's when the high performance comes in. As you see, I wear glasses, so my vision is a key part for my training because I have to be precise, sharp, and I have to have a quick reaction time as well during like whole sessions, qualifying race. And I'm glad we have Shamir as an optical partner because I'm sure he will improve my vision and it will improve my performance as well during the season.
Alpine, of course, have a long history in motorsport. Today we're in the GT4 Alpine A110, but I saw some images there of the Le Mans prototype cars. And speaking of which, Thom was lucky enough to be a guest at the 24 Hours of Le Mans a couple of weekends ago as a guest of Alpine, because he is affiliated with Alpine, which you could probably guess from the shirt he's wearing. Thom, was this your first time at Le Mans? How did you find it?
It was my first time, actually. Yeah, honestly, it was amazing. It's such a different style towards F1, which I'm more invested in, of course. But it was crazy. It had all the fun from F1. But here we go, actually, to the qualifying already. As we are not going to talk about the endurance racing, but this time around it's going to look a little bit like endurance racing because we're going to have 25 minutes in the main race and 10 minutes in the qualifying. So it will be a little bit longer, and it won't necessarily be a sprint race. It won't necessarily be an endurance race of 24 hours, which I've experienced in Le Mans there. But it will be a little bit of a longer race, which... oh man, they're sliding already, pages here. So 1 minute has gone in the qualifying section, meaning everybody is out on track for their outlaps. What do? In the outlap, they go and warm up the tires and the brakes to get ready for a quick lap. Now, I'm not quite sure. With 10 minutes on the clock, Chris, how many laps do we think they are gonna be able to do here? Because maybe 3, 4? Will they go into the pits? I'm not quite sure. What do you think?
It's an interesting question. 4 laps, if you're at the front of the pack, would be doable from a time perspective, but it can be quite hard on the tyres to do 4 fast-paced laps in a row. So you might see some people coming in and having a second bite of the apple. Of course, the main difference here is the track temperature is 21 degrees hotter than it was in qualifying. So those tyre warm-up issues that I speculated about a little earlier, if they were a thing, certainly aren't going to be now. We're looking at Michael Romagnoli at the front of the pack, got out first. Track position not quite as critical this time around, and not sliding as much as we've seen earlier on, taking a very wide entry for his first go down the main straight, just to maximise that exit speed, I should say. Sorry. Of course, you can only really do that on an outlap, so we will see just how much that pays off.
100%. Like, you want to go and get as much traction, as much speed onto the track as possible to start your lap. However, when he comes across, you'll see him taking a way different line to be able to maximize basically the kilometers that he's doing on the track, which you want to, of course, have as minimum as possible. You can see Romagnoli actually in his seat, a little bit more leaning towards the front, actually. Or maybe that's just how he looks on the camera itself. But very focused, and you can see him fighting the steering wheel, coming out of the track right here, or out of the turn. Romagnoli right now leading the pack, and he will be the first one to go and set a lap time. Perhaps he's doing that for the clean air, or maybe he just wants some air time here. Let's see which one it's gonna be. If he's gonna get pole position here and keep it, then I guess that that P1 spot on the grid to do your lap is gonna be very beneficial. Now, I'm not quite sure. Does the P1 here, does the front of the pack here for that first lap help in getting a good lap in, or maybe would you like to have that slipstream? It's 2 things you kind of want to decide here. Do you want the DRS or a slipstream, or do you want the clean air? What would you pick, Chris?
I think I go for the clean air, although it has to be said, these GT4 cars don't have a massive amount of aero, so you don't have the same problems following other cars that you do, say, in the GT3s in ACC or in as we've classically seen over the last God knows how many years in Formula One, where following close has been very difficult indeed. So while being at the front is certainly useful, no distractions, and you can go about your business doing whatever you want at whatever pace you want. I don't think it's as critical in this situation as it is perhaps in other types of car. So see Romagnoli taking a very tight entry into the corner, opposite to what he did on his outlap. Going to be coming across the start-finish line right about now with a 2:03.6, which is considerably slower than the times we saw in Q1 earlier on today. Now, of course, the track temperatures are hotter. The air temperature is hotter, so we would expect perhaps to not quite have the same lap times, but equally, Romagnoli is a multiple point scorer in the series, so not a slow driver by any standards. We see Luke Whitehead coming across 1.2 seconds down behind Payet, who puts in a 2:03.3 as well. So those times are representative thanks to the serious 21-degree differential between track temperatures between the two qualifying sessions. So quite a big difference there, Tom.
100%, and of course we're driving right now at 3 p.m. in the afternoon, but the gap's being quite big here for the start. We can see some drivers perhaps trying another outlap here. James Baldwin perhaps made a mistake on his lap there, being 12 seconds behind, and some drivers going back into the pits, and that's something that we have not seen in the qualifying of the sprint race. So they'll go back into the pits, put some new tires on, but knowing that there's already, the time's gone so quickly, only 4 minutes left in this session. I guess everyone who is going into the pits right now is going to go back out straight away, and then from here we will see no more drivers pitting. But Pagey at the moment being in P1 with a 2:03.3. That is considerably slower, like you've said, and I don't think that is going to be coming any quicker here. Perhaps we can see maybe a 2:09 or something as we are tumbling down with the times here, but we'll have to wait and see all the way at the end. Pagey though is coming through the chicane here to start or finish his lap. Let's see what it's gonna be, if he's gonna improve his lap time or not. But through the last and final turn, will we see a drift going on? No, it's 2 tenths up for Pagey, and he's currently 15,000 behind as Romagnoli gets pole position. It's gonna be Pagey though over the line, and it's going to be 2 tenths then. P1 for Pagey, 2:03.0 as we close into the final couple of laps here. Of course, we have those drivers still who are probably going to be able to do 2 or 3 laps, with Victor Nicolay coming through the last and final turn as well. James Baldwin as well, who is currently in P25, but with this lap, he's going to try and get a good position here. 6 tenths of a second slower than Pagey, and that's not what James Baldwin wants. And now the pressure is really on, because he doesn't have a banker that puts him in a good position for the start of the race, and his next laps are going to be crucial. Berg in P21 is looking to be on a quicker lap here. Will he go and get a good result here? P23 is going to be P22 with a 1.6 second gap to the lead. So gap still being quite big, with Balati at the moment 4.3 seconds behind, but James Baldwin, Chris, that's going to be a little bit of an issue here.
It is. We saw he had to abort his first lap. It was 12 seconds down, so almost certainly not a slow warm-up lap to bring the tyres in gently. I imagine he ran out of space or made a mistake, and then when it was really mattered the most, only managing to scrape his way into the top 10. So all the work to do with 2 minutes to go. Let's see what Balati can do. Doesn't really improve. Well, he does improve by a second, but that's nowhere near enough to gain any further positions.
We saw him drift. We saw him drift to the last and final turn there, going a little bit too hard into the turn, braking too late, and then you can just see the car doesn't want to go. You want to steer, but the car doesn't want to steer, and it looks very awkward trying to turn in that car, and you'll have to try and overcompensate with the throttle to make that car turn around. That's exactly what happened to Balati there. there. In P28, George Bowen, who is, of course, our guest driver today, a little bit behind, but he's driving in that VR as well, which I kind of want to see how that looks like. As we're currently on board with him, you can see he, even if somebody would want to wake him up or tell him something, they would not be able to, as he's fully involved. Now, James Baldwin on a quicker lap now then. He's going to try and go and improve. Currently 4 tenths up, and that would put him P3 perhaps. He's going to go over the line though to get P4, just about 7 thousandths of a second behind of Delia, which is not what he wants, but it's a better starting position already. Calandrino through the last and final turn is looking for an improvement as well, because if he wants to go and start within the point scoring positions, he has to improve. Over the line, it's going to be P15 and a little improvement, but not enough to get into a point scoring position already.
Yeah, critically for Baldwin there, he needs a top 5 finish. If he can finish in 5th place, secure 10 points, it's job done. Doesn't matter what happens with anyone else around him. So that P4 is certainly a better place to start, but not where he wanted to look. But George Boothby has snuck in there at the top by 5 1,000ths of a second from Marco Pajic. We haven't seen a lot from Marco Pajic so far today. Had a quiet race at Paul Ricard as well after 2 strong P2 finishes in Barcelona. So certainly looked like an early contender, and very much looking like a contender this afternoon as well.
For sure, and of course, Pajic being very much still in this fight here for a good position in the championship is gonna be close, because Pajic at the moment is doing a lap as well. George Boothby done, and he's in the pits. Will Pajic score the pole position start for the main race in the last and final race of the Alpine Esports Series? Romagnoli in the meantime is out as well, as we don't know if Baldwin is currently on a lap as well, but perhaps he is, and that could upset Pajic. Pajic super close here. This could be pole position, or it could just about not be, through the last and final turn and over the line with 0-0-0 on the clock. He lost a little bit of time in the last turn, and Chris, I think we saw that happening, because he went a little bit deep there, and you could see the car sliding around a little bit more. Now Luke Whitehead, who is fighting for the championship as well, is in P6, and he's 3 tenths up now. That would put him 1.5 tenths behind in a P3 position. But remember, the lap is not over yet. And now in this last and final sector, if he manages to hit every single corner, every single apex, he's going to be able to go and do it.
Just as you said it, Commentators curse, running a little bit wide through the left-hander there. Didn't connect with the apex, still a couple of tenths up. Lost a little bit of his margin, but still potentially enough to leapfrog Kuhn and Baldwin ahead. Let's see how the rest of the lap unfolds. As you say, Thom, just the chicane and the final long right-hander to go. That long right-hander has been the bête noire of many a driver here today, and let's see how Luke Whitehead manages to handle it. Running out onto the grass, car a little bit unsettled. Can he connect with the apex? He almost does, little bit wider than he'd like, but still running a fast time, it has to be said. Just about enough for P3, but 7 1,000ths off of pole position there. 7 1,000ths between P1, P2 and P3, Thom.
I got my hands in my hair. Oh my goodness. 7 thousandths, 5 thousandths and 0. 7 thousandths separate the top 3. That's not even a blink with my fingers. That's not even a blink with your eyes. Oh my goodness. In the last and final race, we'll have a start with 3 drivers that are literally equal. 7 thousandths of a second, and if they are going to be 7 thousandths of a second away from each other when they go into the race as well, into the first turn, that's going to be too close for comfort, and I'm not quite sure if I'm going to be able to survive this 25-minute long race, Chris.
Speaking of not being able to survive, those lovely shots we just had there of the Nurburgring in the rain definitely gave me pause to think that this was going to be a more exciting final race. We don't need rain to spice this up. It's already very, very close at the top, and Boothby did everything he needed to do, but only just. He needs this win. If he wins, that's all he can do. Luke Whitehead also really needs to win this race. James Baldwin needs to stay within the top 5. He's currently starting P5 around the likes of Romagnoli, Kuhn and Victor Nicolai, a man that we can't stop talking about, a man that is constantly involved in the action. And
If you haven't yet, by the way, scanned the POAP NFT, make sure you do it right now. It's on the screen, a part of the Alpine A110 GT4 car. It could be yours. And today, of course, is the last and final time you can scan them. And if you have collected the entire car, then you are amazing. Now, as we go further into the grid, we are looking at the midfield and the back. And this is where it should all go loose in this last and final race, where stakes are going to be high, but opportunities are going to be high as well.
Well, another thing that's high is the temperature. Still, that's 32 degrees ambient, 42 degrees track. It's pretty toasty by European standards, and we've known from previous races that the high track temperature can cause a little bit of fun with the tyre wear, keeping the tyres in the right window in these slidey cars, as we saw, 2 seconds slower. God, we've gone back to that range shot again, haven't we? It's, what are you trying to tell us here?
Who knows, maybe it will still rain.
Maybe there's time, although the 30-minute forecast does say more bright sunshine. Looking now at Marco Pajic on his warm-up lap as they proceed round to the grid at a fairly fair pace, it has to be said. Boothby out in front, just needs to repeat everything he did in the first race. Pajic, a win here would catapult him up the standings, and it was worth quite a lot of money, Thom.
100%. Look at that. The cones are already out of here for the entirety of the race then. I don't think they wanted to kind of get them out of their zone here. They want the cones gone. They don't want to see any flying cones in the entirety of the race, so they just get them out of the way already in the formation lap here. Now, Pajic we're currently on board with, and Pajic at the moment, it's basically, this is his race. If he scores good points here, if he gets the lead in the first turn, he can basically turn his whole season around. And as he's been in the midfield, midfield at the top of the championship, but in the midfield of the top 10 here the entire time, it could all well turn around here if this race is the one where he performs. That's the same for a lot of drivers. We see James Baldwin in P5. This is the position where he needs to finish in to be able to be comfortably winning that championship, because James Baldwin currently still leads the championship, currently has 64 points, 15-point lead over P2. But he's out of position because P2 currently starts P1 and James Baldwin starts P5. So this is literally, from a viewer perspective, it's the most interesting way to watch, basically. So make sure you are going to keep an eye on this, because this championship battle throughout the entirety of the race is going to be super exciting. What do you think? Your predictions, Chris? Who's going to win it?
What I think is that you listed about 12 numbers in a row there, and I could hear your brain melt while all of that was happening, Thom. But as for the race, you're quite right. Boothby has got to go out and win it. Pajic has got to go out and win it. Luke Whitehead in P3 has got to go out and win it. Romagnoli came into today with 12 points. If he can bring 25 points back today, that catapults him massively up the standings, and a huge financial payoff for doing that. James Baldwin's got to protect that championship lead. I think anyone in the top 5 has got to have a winning mentality here, and that is a recipe for some pretty exciting racing. So Thom, why don't you take us away for the final race of the Alpine Esports Series?
Let's go then! 25 minutes on the clock as we go through the last and final turn for the last and final race of the Alpine Esports Series powered by Binance 2022. This is the moment everyone has been waiting for, and especially the drivers. Who will make it out in time at the first turn? As we go off now then, green, and it's Pajic straight away getting a good start alongside of George Boothby into the first turn. Right behind is Luke White and Romagnoli fighting as well. And at the moment, Pajic around the outside in the first turn. Will we have Mayhem in the first turn as well? Once again, a little bit of a touch. And actually, it's Luke White that loses positions. Behind though, a little bit of a scruff. And there's one car around. although this time around it's a lot cleaner than last time out. Bejic fighting with Boothby side by side on the inside. Who is gonna grab the lead here in the first lap of the Alpine Esports Series last and final race? It's George Boothby who just about clings on, but Bejic has the outside, meaning more traction, more power, and he clings on to P1 here, with George Boothby losing 1 position at the start and no longer grabbing those 25 points. At the moment as well, James Baldwin going already up into P4, so gaining a position at the start. Wow, that was a pretty good start, wasn't it, Chris?
Yeah, James Baldwin actually nearly became a cropper at turn 1 once again. He had the inside line in a 3-wide lineup, and the door shut on him, and there was a little bit of a shove. Luke Whitehead, as we saw, was the person who lost out due to that sort of pinball action that happened there. Busy stuff. He nearly got P3 round the outside of turn 2, which is crazy, as we see just the kind of thing that happens in sim racing when you don't check your mirrors. And it's a shame to see for Calandrino there, who rather moved across where there wasn't quite enough space to do so, sadly.
Just about miscalculated there, and of course around this very narrow track, just 1 inch too wide or 1 inch too close to another car can mean the end, and these cars are very hard to catch once they go. Bouquet looking up the inside, taking different lines compared to Herzing, who has a drive-through, and Runneke as well, who is in P11 with a drive-through 2. Oh, look at that, how close they are. A couple of a little bit of grass being mowed. There's somebody behind, completely went straight into the barriers. But we are gonna be looking at the battle at the front of the grid. James Baldwin this time around is gonna be able to continue after lap 1, turn 1, and he is battling for a better position. But he doesn't necessarily have to. He just needs to stay in this P4. It's Trancanelli then, who we have seen in top positions in the previous past races, and he's currently in P30, stuck in the gravel. James Baldwin now, a little bit of a gap to the car in front with Romagnoli right behind, and Pejic currently leading this race still. Hopi made a little bit of a mistake, going wide, going back on track here, and down a couple of positions, back in 27th position for him, so losing about 14 position.
Yeah, very busy, well, everywhere, as it has been throughout all of these races. We see Romagnoli lost out a couple of positions there at the beginning, particularly to Baldwin, who nabbed him at the start. It's a great bit of first lap action, but as you said earlier, leaning forward in that seat, looking very keen, and there's a bit of a long train forming behind George Boothby in P2. Haye has created a little bit of air at the front, but everyone else is pretty much nose to tail behind them, so far from over yet, Tom.
Far from over yet, and remember, 21 minutes left in the session, meaning tire wear could start kicking in at the end as well. And we've seen some drivers having troubles in trying to keep the car around, knowing that there's less traction. We've heard it from George Boothby, who has said, we are running less traction now because we found out less traction means better lap times if you can handle it. But if you're not smooth enough, you're gonna burn the tires more and more and more compared to when you're running more traction control, right? So, are there gonna be people trying to push too hard, overheating those tires and losing the grip at the end of the race? That could be the case, but we'll only know in the last couple of laps. I think though, the top 5 right here, or at least the top 6 who are still very close to each other, 1 or 2 of these drivers are going to be struggling here at the end, knowing that they're pushing all out and they know this is the last and final race. Bastida getting overtaken by Kappa then in P21, and it's battles all over the place. It's too many battles to even look into, but you can see side by side into the first turn, and somebody has to brake later, but who is going to be the one who brakes the latest? It looks like, oh, look at that, a little bit too late, and a hit then, and it's going to be one of the cars there switching around. It's going to be Valero who gets hit very unfortunately and drops down 4 positions from P21 to P25. That is not what he wants.
Yeah, Gael Valero, the unfortunate spectator in that incident. Nothing he could have really done, very much like Baldwin in race 1. Speaking of which, Baldwin still under pressure from Romagnoli, who is himself under pressure from Matthias Kuhn. It's it's pretty tasty, this battle for the top 6 or 7, 10 positions even. There's a little bit of a gap between Bauer and Nurby, but Yeah. What's the largest gap in the top 6? Half a second? I think there's more to come from all of this.
For sure. And we can see as well that George Boothby currently is holding the fastest lap, looking like he wants that P1 position because he knows, I need to get P1 here. If I want to have a chance at winning this championship, I need to get P1. And something needs to happen to James Baldwin, right? In George Boothby's George Boothby's POV, right? Now, of course, he's not going to do that, but the only thing that he can do is focus on getting that P1 position, and that's exactly what he's doing. But it looks like Peggy just has a very, very good pace, knowing that he doesn't have anyone in front of him. It's gonna be easy peasy lemon squeezy if he doesn't make any mistakes. In the meantime, if you haven't yet claimed your Alpine airdrop, then you better get your phone ready and get scanning. If you have not yet claimed it, remember, if you've already claimed it and you're already a Binance user, you cannot do it again. Now, there's also a prize actually for those who claim an Alpine airdrop. You could win, or one of the 6 users, right, who win $1,000 in Alpine fan token. So, if you haven't yet done it, you better do so.
Sorry, don't mind me. I'm just going to do that quickly. Sign up. I'm not sure. Are we disqualified from doing that? It doesn't matter. Critical for Boothby here is he can actually let Haye finish ahead of him. The only from a championship perspective, of course, not just the race and the fact he's a natural racer and will want to win. Haye finishing in front of him doesn't actually matter. His only opportunity here is to finish P1 or P2, where he currently is, and have James Baldwin finish outside of the points. So he's actually doing everything he needs to from a championship perspective. Of course, that won't make a blind bit of difference, and I'm sure he will be going for P1 as soon as the opportunity presents itself, Thom.
100%. And of course, that is going to be the main goal, like he said. And like I said, literally the only thing he needs to do for that is do his best, right? We will see racing happening later on, because what we've seen in the past couple of races is that at some point they try to consolidate, and then after that the racing kicks off, because right now they can see the clock as well. They can see 17 minutes. Okay, it's fine. We have a couple of laps still left. However, at some point they'll start feeling the urge. I need to do something now. And they probably, every single driver has in their head gotten the championship all figured out. They're calculating as they go. Where am I now in this position compared to my rivals? With Luke Whitehead currently in P3, who does actually need a better point scoring position over George Boothby to get that P2 position, because currently he has lost P2 in the championship. If he doesn't finish in front of George Boothby, he will not be able to get P2 because he's behind.
Yeah, I think as long as they're up the sharp end of the field like this, the P2 and P3 will be decided by the finishing order of those 2 drivers as it stands, without any other sort of craziness happening that I wouldn't like to hazard a guess at, because well, I wouldn't have predicted what happened in race 1, and I'm certainly not going to stick my neck on the block for what might happen here in race 2. As you say, the race has calmed down a little bit. We've seen this throughout each of the stages. The sprint race, the shorter race, has been action-packed as we go to Victor Nicolai drifting through the Mercedes arena. As I said, every time we point the camera at Victor Nicolai, something interesting is happening, and he is currently in a battle with Muscat, who, as we say, is stubbing in for Arthur Sarnecki, who is not able to make the race tonight. But yeah, a man who doesn't know how to be boring.
No, definitely not. I remember last year, of course, in the previous championship, Victor Nicolai was actually one of the main contenders for the championship, always at the top of the standings. This year, it shows basically, right? Knowing that Victor Nicolai is in a good position in general, right? Currently, or before we got into the event today, he was in P9. But that means that this year, the championship is going even more competitive, and Victor Nicolai had to go and step up his pace as well. And you've seen that in a couple of races he was able to, and in a couple of races like this one, for example, currently in P19, battling for what he hopes will still be perhaps a point here at the end of the race. But
well,
like
I think
you said,
he may have walked under too many ladders during his lifetime, because he's had some rotten luck both last year and this. Very fast driver, but hasn't quite managed to to haul the points in the way that he might like to. So maybe he needs to go and visit a shaman or something and solve all of those problems. I'm no expert in this area. What I can tell you though is that braking on the inside there for the final chicane is definitely not the fastest way to make your way through. As we see Brouwer in P9's picked up a 5-second penalty. Not quite sure what that's for. Nikolai gets a great run off the final turn though, after commentators cursing myself there by suggesting he was doing it wrong.
I'm going to tell you right now, I gotta watch out here, because if you go up the inside, there will be maybe a little bit of a touch, and there will probably be a touch here if they don't watch out. And look at that, it's Nikolai who goes for a switchback on both of them. Perhaps he will have the outside now, but if he can brake very late, he might get both of them then. It doesn't look like it. No, he gets one of them, and in basically staying behind, looking for the moment to go and do it, and looking for the position. He's able to do it now though, around the outside, meaning it can be very, very close, and it will be very close between Bastida and Nikolai, as they're super close. And Nikolai, after he has profited from that little battle up front, is back into that position where he was before as well. Now it's Koen and Romagnoli, I think, battling right here, super close to each other, and it's going to be a oh, I know it's actually going to be Romagnoli keeping the position, but that was a little bit too close for comfort, right, Krish?
Yeah, I think fair racing, using every part of the track. He's got a good drag through the Schumacher S there. I don't think there's going to be enough run down into this left-right sequence to do anything about it, but more interesting perhaps right now is that Luke Whitehead is right behind George Boothby. This is 4P2 in the championship. He's in the slipstream. This is one of two prime overtaking opportunities. You don't get a long braking zone into the chicane, so it's unlikely that he's going to be able to force a move now, but if he can stay close, stay neat through the final turn, and get even closer. Wow, I wasn't expecting to see Boothby have to go defensive, and that's to some extent actually compromise Boothby even further. He can't get on the power quickly enough, and already having to go defensive before the lap's even over. Can Whitehead run all the way down round the outside? We've seen pulled out the slipstream and the progress has stopped almost immediately. What happens on the brakes? Boothby going slightly later, has the apex. Can Whitehead get some kind of a switchback? He certainly doesn't. What he does get is a handful of curb and a handful of oversteer, Tom.
Oh my goodness, Whitehead almost lost the car, as we see Delia going for the inside here then, on the car of Brouwer, who has a 5-second penalty, so he needs to get rid of him, because Brouwer is not going to be in a position here to battle with the drivers in front. If he can get rid of him right now, then he can look forward, because if he has to just keep on battling with Brouwer and Brouwer, then it's gonna go and just lose him time. But this battle between Luke Whitehead and George Boothby is a battle for an actual position in the championship. So this is a battle for $13,000 of Alpine fan token, besides the prizes that are done by the partners of Alpine Esports. So this is gonna be like, I can imagine that currently they have a heartbeat of 500 per second.
But that's a fairly fast heartbeat. As you can see, this battle has brought James Baldwin into contention as well, right behind. Clearly, Boothby not feeling the car at the moment. His pace dropped off. He's dropping away from Pajic and now absolutely swarmed by Whitehead, who taking a much tighter line through the Kumo curve. Bit curve here. This is where he lost out last time. You can see Luke Whitehead getting the car position better, getting a good run, much closer this time. Can he make use of that slipstream? Will he wait until the end of the lap as he did before? I suspect he will. It's the better overtaking opportunity. Gives Luke a bit of a, gives George a little bit of a look as he bounces across the curbs. And we see the suspension springs go like slinkies there for a moment. Whitehead's nice and neat into the final corner, closer to the apex. Gets a great run once again into the slipstream. What can he do? Does Boothby go defensive early like last time? He doesn't. He goes defensive slightly early.
Slightly early, and they're taking the inside now with George Boothby braking late. Now James Baldwin is caught up, so if they make a little bit of a scrap here, then perhaps James Baldwin will be able to profit from that. We've seen it in the past as well. Two cars battling with each other and one of them going away with the position there. Luke Whitehead though keeping it all the way around the outside, but will that be enough to go and put it along for the next couple of turns? He literally tries to extract the maximum out of the car, and it looks like George Boothby is now already experiencing, he's basically inside of him. He's basically inside inside of him. George Boothby is having some issues. He's dropped down 5/10 in the last couple of turns compared to Marko Pejic. So he is going to have perhaps some overheating tires, perhaps some tire wear here. And both James Baldwin and Luke Whitehead are right behind of him. You can see George Boothby no longer has time to go and have a little bit of a drink on the main straight. He's not going to want to do it anymore. And perhaps he's getting a little bit dehydrated because of it.
As a man that looks worried, I don't think dehydration is top of the list of his concerns right now. I think Luke Whitehead is top of the list of his concerns. They got very close. There's a little bit of bump drafting, or being inside, as you so poetically put it there, Thom. Big slide of oversteer through the Schumacher-esque. George Boothby looking like a man whose days are numbered in P2. And yeah, at the risk of repeating myself, look at the amount of oversteer, the opposite lock having to go as he fights it. The car through the bit curve once again. Thankfully, does seem to be able to have the pace along the straight section here before the final chicane to hold off Whitehead. But well, let's watch as he goes through the chicane. This is where Whitehead's been able to close up over the last couple of laps. Whitehead much tighter through both parts of the corner. Boothby not looking quite so unbalanced this time around, but here we go again. Round 3, Thom. Is it going to play out exactly the same way?
Round 3, ding ding ding. Here we go then, as we go and start the slipstream bonanza on the main straight. This time around, it looks like Luke Whitehead is a little bit more behind compared to in the previous lap, and he decides to just stay behind for now and try and line it up for the next lap, basically, or maybe somewhere if George Boothby is going to make those mistakes that he's done in the last couple of laps. James Baldwin behind is taking it very smartly. He knows if he stays there in P4, I guess right now if he is seeing all this happening in front of him, he's gonna get a little bit nervous, but he just wants to stay behind. If they do something stupid, he goes for the overtake. If they don't, he's not gonna do anything weird here. You can see he's leaving a little bit of space as well, compared to Luke Whitehead and George Boothby, because they're fighting for a position in the championship. James Baldwin is not fighting for a position. If he stays there, he wins the championship, unless something else happens to him. But something else can only happen to him if he gets involved, right?
For sure, yeah. I mean, this particular battle has hit point written all over it. I think Luke Whitehead is likely to get the position. Boothby struggling, doing an excellent job of defending, it has to be said, but clearly does not have the car under him now. I mean, just look how much extra speed Whitehead was able to carry through the Schumacher-esque, gets the car tighter through the Kumo curve. Just getting into the apex, tucked in earlier. Now through the bit curve. Again, front end looks so much better on Luke Whitehead's car now. Once again, this is what, now time number 4 of this particular opera playing out in front of us. And again, let's watch through this chicane. Just see how much better Luke Whitehead is able to get that car. Just the front end, take more curb. Feels, oh, nice early lunge, maybe just to put Boothby off of his game. He knows he's going to struggle to out-drag him down the start-finish straight, and that's actually cost him a little bit of time, and now might have to go a tiny bit defensive from Baldwin, although I think he's just about got enough in hand this lap.
I do not predict Baldwin going for a move here. I would respect him to go for a move, but I think he's just going to stay behind for now and see it all unfold. If something happens, fine, I'll go for it. But if something doesn't happen, okay, fine, I'll stay in P4. He doesn't have to get the podium here. But what is very interesting is that George Boothby has been quick in the qualifying session. All qualifying sessions, right? Oh, and look at that! That is not the qualifying session, no. That is going to be the race, and a very close race, because it's going to be Luke Whitehead going for a move and James Baldwin almost going to be able to go for a move here. Is Luke Whitehead going to give him enough space on the left or the right hand side? Yes, but that was a very close call, and Luke Whitehead is now starting to go and pick up the pace because he knows I need to make moves. Whether it's going to be an opportunity, I will make an opportunity. It doesn't matter where. We have not really seen overtakes in that corner over there, but he's got to start making opportunities because he only has 5 minutes left to go and do it, and he has to do it now. Now, I was talking about how interesting it is that George Boothby actually is only... he was super quick in the qualifying and the sprint race, meaning he probably is running a setup that is very hard on the tires, but super quick when he only has to do a couple of laps, right? Now, of course, it involves a little bit of talent as well, but it does look like he's running a little bit more of an aggressive setup, and that is what is showing right now. 4.7 seconds behind Pejic, and Luke Whitehead and James Baldwin have more pace. They are showing it, and if George Boothby wasn't there...
Can I interrupt for a second there, Thom? This tower of three driver cams is really instructive. This is absolutely beautiful. Look at the difference in driving attitude. Luke Whitehead having to absolutely wrestle the car above him. Sorry, getting that all wrong. George Boothby wrestling the car above him. Luke Whitehead much more calm, focused, gently massaging the wheel, and James Baldwin through the corners when he's getting those little moments of opposite lock, just delicate little once again we cut to Victor Nicolai and something interesting's happened. It's absolutely it's a meme at this stage, Thom.
Next time around, if he participates in the next season of the Alpine Esports Series, if that's gonna happen, yeah, he could have his own highlight reel for the next season, huh?
We got Luke Whitehead very close to the back of George Boothby. We've said that 400 times already. Out of turn 4, you're going to struggle to go around the outside of turn 5, and obviously thinks better of it. We've seen some slightly, how should we say, frustrated attempts at moves from Luke Whitehead, sticking the nose in perhaps where the door's going to get shut. So hopefully we don't see contact between these two drivers, but it definitely looks like Luke Whitehead is desperate to make his way past now.
I don't think in these last 3 minutes we're not going to see them hit each other. I'm not going to say they're going to hit each other and spin out, but I am 100% sure that they'll be as close as rubbing the tires with each other here, because this is going to be big. This is going to go for P2 here. And if Luke Whitehead doesn't go for the move, I'm sure that after this race he will regret it himself. Now let's hope that it's going to be clean and fair, but a little bit of rubbing is something that I expect here in the last 2.5 minutes.
Absolutely. You know, it's important to mention there is a lot of money on the line, so throwing away a safe P3 probably not the smartest of moves, but you're right, there's always the what ifs. That's certainly something to play into the final moments of this race. We are going to get 2 more laps just about, which is good because Pejic already across the line now, so
he's very close now.
One more. Looking at, yeah, as you quite rightly mentioned, once again Luke Whitehead in the slipstream. Boothby not feeling the need to go defensive just yet. Will Luke Whitehead spring a move at the last moment? Not at the moment. The widest Alpine ever from George Boothby, who runs very wide in turn 1, and now this is a real opportunity for Whitehead around the outside of turn 2. It's a long way around there, and wisely decides not to sacrifice his potential position to Baldwin by hanging it out around the outside. Widest Alpine in mainland Europe there from George Boothby for sure.
100%, and it looks like he has more tire wear, but it's very impressive to keep a hold of not alone very quick drivers, but also drivers who seem like they have a little bit of overspeed here, and George Boothby is doing exactly what he needs to do. Now, we saw James Baldwin going for a little look as well, and I am just getting nervous by looking at it. I'm not even driving, I'm getting nervous at them taking all these risks here. Now, we're gonna have 1 minute left on the clock, and you'll see them going over the line for one last time there for another lap, and then after that it's gonna be a one shot, basically one shot, as we can see James Baldwin currently actually blinking with his front lights there. Did you see that?
Yeah, just having a little bit of fun. I think he's I can't imagine he's trying to signal anything to the guys in front of any real use. Looks pretty calm, pretty collected, unlike the man in the middle there, George Boothby, who I think looks like he's done about 400 laps at this stage. He certainly probably feels like it to him, but as you say, clearly hasn't had the tyres quite in the same condition as the 2 guys behind him. He's dropped now to 6.5 seconds from Marco Pejic, who we've barely seen anything of in this race. Pejic crosses the line now with 8 seconds remaining on the clock to go for 1 more lap. He didn't really have the time in hand quite to run out the clock and shorten the race by 1 lap, but wow, this battle, 1 lap to go. Hard to see anything changing from here? Boothby maybe has just about done enough. Tom, what do you think?
Boothby looking like he's done enough, but he's going wide in the first turn the entire time. Now, this is something where Luke Whitehead can actually play into his hand, and he's looking on the inside then, and there's no space whatsoever. George Boothby keeps the inside. That was almost a move for the lead there, but George Boothby covers him off with everything that he has. You can't go through a car, and that is playing into the hands of George Boothby. He's positioning the car.
There was a little bit of a nudge there from Whitehead as well, so I don't know if he was caught out by Boothby's apex speed, but gave him a little bit of a tap and then tried to follow through on the very inside. And I think there may have just been a little bit of a rub there into the braking zone as well. This is pretty tense stuff, Tom.
It's very tense, as we have one more lap after this, of course. Peggy's currently, we haven't even talked about him the entirety of the race except for the start, is currently 7.6 seconds in front, but it doesn't. It's not the main thing that's happening here. We have gotten the battle for P2 and P3, and right behind, we have number 1 in the championship, James Baldwin. If he stays there, he will win the Alpine Esports Series 2022. But we have seen so many things happening here, due to them being perhaps a little bit nervous or perhaps having to go for a move, and now there's going to be one last opportunity for Luke Whitehead, and I think, like I said, he is going to go for it because he will regret it if he doesn't go for it. Now, we saw that he has so much more speed.
4 corners to do it, Tom. We are out of time on the clock, and Haye will be crossing the line any second. So as I command the stream to perform my bidding there, as we see Whitehead bouncing across the curbs, giving it his absolute everything. Little late move as Haye crossed the line to take a rather commanding win, and we see Luke Whitehead just fails to take George Boothby at the line, and James Baldwin within a couple of tenths as well. That was very, very close stuff at the end there.
And look at how happy George Boothby is, knowing he clinched P2 here. Of course, before we have any of the stewards that have looked at all the incidents, I'm not quite sure. I don't think George Boothby was involved in any incidents that he is going to get penalties for, but we never know. It's still provisional. Luke Whitehead misses out on that P2 that he had before. And of course, James Baldwin, who is going to be very, very happy here, because James Baldwin is the 2022 Alpine Esports Series champion. We will be looking at the provisional results very, very soon. But Chris, what a race this was to end of the championship.
Well, yeah, what can you say? I have to thank George Boothby, who kept that very exciting for the second half of that race. We had a pretty interesting start with Baldwin, Whitehead getting a little bit of contact, I think, down into turn 1. Marco Paich, who we barely mentioned, as you said earlier, commanding win, took the lead at the beginning, did everything he needed to, and Boothby dropped out of contention a little bit as soon as he started to have to go defensive against Whitehead for that rather long battle. Let's say we've not really talked about what happened much outside of the top 5. Romagnoli, who started, I believe, in P4, dropped down to P6. Kun, Nebi, Brouwer, Twodzillo, and Arduini filling out the top 10. And then towards the end, to tie up some stories from earlier, we've got Victor Nicolai, who managed to drop down to P22, started in the top 10, always seemed to be getting involved in something or other, and a 10-second penalty to boot as well. So George Bowen actually managing to finish a little bit higher this time as well, although nearly a lap down, well, 30 seconds off of a lap down. Let's give the man some credit in his first ever Assetto Corsa Competizione race. So nice of him, and in a class of 1, we can say, Tom.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he won. He won his race, which, I mean, congratulations to him. And I mean, this is the perfect way to end it for him as well in this second race. Of course, the first one, we saw him get a drive-through penalty. And in this one, being able to beat some of the pro drivers, right, is something that I think he can be proud of, especially being in VR as well. He's probably going to be very sweaty now with the glasses on as well. I will say I am very sweaty myself as well after that race. I don't think we could have gotten a better one there. Let's go to a short video of Esteban Ocon. Here we go.
So I've been racing in Formula One since 2016. So that's 1.5, 2, 3, 6 years. Ça fait pas 6 years, attends. Ça fait combien de years? Ça fait trop là. Il y a une demi-année 2016, 17, 18, pas 19, 20, 21.
22. Tu l'as coursé 6 ans et demi. C'est bon.
5 et demi?
C'est bon.
Ouais, 5 et demi.
Bon, bah ok.
2022, on est en 2022.
Ok. I do love most things about Formula One. I mean, Formula One is my dream, was my dream. It's not my job, and yeah, I enjoy every day being, at the wheel of a great racing car. I won my first race in Hungary in 2021. My favorite circuits, I have two. So one of them is Suzuka, and the second one is Budapest. Binance joined BWT Alpine F1 team in February 2022. Binance fan tokens are utility tokens that give token holders special benefits and privilege with team and brand. It enables the team and the brand to grow their fan community and reward their supporters. It can enable holders to participate in engagement, voting polls on team's decision, access to limited edition NFTs, purchase items from the fan shop, and participate in Alpine F1 team's fan token activities like trading, competition, and access to tickets and merchandising. NFTs are non-fungible tokens, a digital asset that represents a real-world object like art, music, or game assets and videos. So that will be Hungary, USA, Monaco, France, and Qatar. BNB stands for Built and Built.
Le but de ce partenariat est d'accompagner les joueurs, de créer de l'immersion et du bien-être. Donc quand je parle d'immersion avec Philips Hue et les lumières connectées, on peut synchroniser ses lumières avec son jeu. L'intérêt de Philips Hue pour le bien-être des joueurs est d'arriver à une meilleure performance. C'est-à-dire du matin jusqu'au soir, la bonne lumière au bon moment amène à plus de performance.
Thank you for joining us. We're going to be shortly joined by James Baldwin, who, well, not yet. He's not here yet. We're getting to that. He's I shan't speculate what he's up to, but I imagine there's a little bit of celebration going on. We'll get to that. We'll be just showing the results of the race, the sort of provisional results there for the race here at Nurburgring. George Boothby, the man of the day, P1 in the sprint race, P2 in the feature race there, as I'm sure everyone largely remembers because he was on screen for the vast majority of it. Marko Pajic, nowhere in the first race, winner overall, didn't feature at all. So I think that tells you if you want to get ahead in esports, don't win. Be very busy in P2.
For sure. And Pajic actually coming back here with everything in that last race, and that's exactly how you want to finish this championship, with those 25 points there. Then Luke Whitehead, though, who I of course talked, and we've seen it at the start of the show today, he didn't really feel the pressure, right, going into the race today. But perhaps it might have been maybe a little bit handy if he did, because he just about missed out there on second place in the championship. We'll see, of course, in a little bit the confirmed championship standings, but as it stands at the moment, provisionally he has lost out on that P2, meaning minus, well, let's not say that, but We'll get James Baldwin right now then. James Baldwin, congratulations, man. Well done on winning the 2022 Alpine Esports Series championship. Well done, man.
Thanks, guys. Thank you very much. That was so intense, those final 2 races. Yeah, I'm just really happy. I don't look happy because I feel like absolute rubbish. But yeah, I'm so happy I got over the line with that. What a fun! It was a really fun series. I really enjoyed it.
I can imagine.
Thank you for keeping it interesting for us. I know you didn't really have a lot to do with what happened in the sprint race, but it's been a much more interesting story for us to tell this evening. Probably not the way you would have wanted it to go, though.
No, definitely not. So I was lacking a bit of preparation because of I was in Spa like last night, and then I just didn't get any hours on this. But like these boys are quick, so if you don't prepare properly, like it's hard to be anywhere near them. Did a good job in the first quali, then got taken out. I mean, that's racing, stuff happens. You know, what can you do about that? I did look at the replay, and there's nothing really else I could have done. Marco also got unlucky there, and then in the second race, just had a lack of pace. Really, Marco was rapid all day, and I know it's boring, but I was just trying to be smart about it. Like I didn't feel like I had enough pace to get past the 2 people in front of me and attack Marco. So I just thought, let's be smart, think about championship, and stay in position. So yeah.
That's exactly what we thought you were doing. I was like, yo, don't go for it now, because they were fighting super hard, and it was 4 positions, right, for P2 and P3.
Yeah,
and you were involved there. You were just chilling behind, just wanting that P1 to go and come in here in the championship, and you did it, man. Now, let me tell you real quick, together with Chris, what you have won, and tell me what you think of it, okay? You have won $40,000 of Alpine fan token. What else, Chris?
Jesus.
Well, yeah. On top of that, if you're not busy enough racing in the Spa 24, which you sort of briefly sort of hinted at there, which, first of all, not a bad week for James Baldwin. Let's put that one out there. But yeah, there's also the Alpine GT4 drive. Get a go in the real one. That'll be a nice little laugh.
Wow, that's crazy, guys. I mean, yeah, I can't quite get my head around it, to be honest. Wow, that's obviously a lot of fan token. I don't know. I think the GT4 test day excites me more. Like, I'm lost for words. Honestly, it's amazing. It's really, really cool.
It's gonna happen, man. It's gonna happen.
That's so cool.
On top of that, there's some Philips Hue lighting coming your way, some gear from Freem, and some cool shades from Shamir as well. So, I mean, you'll have forgotten about some of those by the time we get to the end of the list. But it's a pretty stacked prize pool. So, yeah, first of all, congratulations. You've been extremely dominant through the series, and as I said, thank you for keeping it interesting today, James.
Thank you to Alpine and you guys for running a great esports series. I really enjoyed it. Some really close, hard racing, and it's competitive on my favourite game. So it's the first championship I've done on GT4 as well. So great, really enjoyed it.
Well, James, it was honestly a pleasure to have you on, and the racing you've put up in the first and second round, as well as this last one here, was sublime, and it showed. Winner, man, of the Alpine Esports Series 2022. Well done, congratulations, man. Enjoy it, man.
Will do. Don't worry about that. Cheers, guys. Thank you.
There we go. The winner of the Alpine Esports Series powered by Binance, James Baldwin, who had some extra pressure there then in the last and final race, as his last or his sprint race there was compromised because of the little incident they had in the first turn. Now, currently, we have somebody else in the commentator box, and that is George Bowen, who we saw, our special guest here for the last and final round. We saw him with a virtual reality headset on. Yo, dude, GB, how was it, man? Let me know.
It was a lot of fun. There's a bit of craziness at the start, but I think once we got to grips with it, it was okay. Yeah, it's a very different experience. It's quite difficult, and everything looks a bit grainy, kind of in VR. It's very difficult. I drove this on the wheel normally the other day, and yeah, the difference is pretty amazing. But a lot of fun.
So people know you.
Sorry.
So people know you as an F1 Twitch streamer, right? How much different was it to drive in these GT4 cars compared to the F1 cars you normally drive in?
I think a lot of difference. I mean, even just the speed you take through the corners is obviously a massive difference. But I think I found that a lot, which with the GT4 car is that I was quite aggressive on the steering, quite aggressive on the power and brakes. Whereas you I feel like on the GT4 cars you want to be a little bit smoother in your inputs, and I definitely felt that. I think in the first practice session. Hopefully you guys didn't see what happened, but yeah, it's that may have showed, put it that way.
Thankfully, we haven't been broadcasting the practice session, so you're safe there.
Nothing happened then. Forget I said that. Rewind.
Interesting choice to do some competitive racing in VR. I don't know what the temperature is where you are. I can tell you I'm probably not a million miles away from you, and it's currently 28 degrees in the studio. So the idea of strapping a headset on right now isn't top of my list. But every time the camera seemed to cut to you today, it looked like you were almost looking around, taking in the sights, looking around at the sunset and everything else.
That was exactly it. You know, we had like 10 seconds more on the lap time, but we were just taking in the sights. Absolutely, that was but it's very hard. I think I'm actually wearing two headsets. I've got obviously my main gaming headset on, and then with the VR to get the sound. So it is very hot. I was saying towards the end of that race, I could feel beads of sweat running down the side of my face. But it was a lot of fun. Like I said, it's definitely a bit steamy in here. Maybe the wrong time of the year to try that.
Awesome, GB. Thank you so much for joining in. I hope you actually really enjoyed that, and well done, mate. You beat some pro drivers there in the end. Hopefully, perhaps see you in the future once again.
Yeah, 100%. Thanks a lot to you guys as well for the opportunity, to Alpine, to Binance for having me on, and yeah, hopefully we'll see you again in the future.
100%. Thank you very much, man.
All right, guys, take it easy.
All right, that was it then, and we will go to the final provisional standings then for the Alpine Esports Series. After, of course, we've had all the races. This is the championship. Chris, you're very well at doing this.
There you have it. George Boothby, of course, does manage to stay ahead of Luke Whitehead, but something that I was just computing in the background there during that interview was that I thought Marco Pajic would just pip Luke Whitehead. So I'm not even sure it's fair to say it, but the George Boothby's defence there has gained him 13,000 euros in Alpine fan token. Wow. And it's cost Luke Whitehead a potential 7,000 20,000 euros. Wow. Yeah. So that's that ultra wide Alpine action for sort of 10 or 12 laps there by George Boothby has had major consequences. And going down the list there, sort of Michel Neve looked close at times, but never really quite able to pull off the big results. But consistency, the key there, bringing him in 5th place for a decent finish. And just on the outskirts of the top 10 there in 10th place was our friend Victor Nicolai, who does come away with the last of the paying positions with that $100 Alpine token.
Yeah, for sure. And Mikko Nowakowski just about outside there. But I think anybody who scored points in the entirety of the championship can be super proud, because the entire championship has been so competitive. And if we said it in the middle of the race, Victor Nicolai was one of the front runners last year. Of course, he's been a little bit unlucky this year around. We've seen it happen. Next time around, we'll have the highlights for just him up as well. But yeah, I mean, you can see there's another step up now once again, and it's been insanely close. So yeah, to close it off here, the last and final race and the last and final race of the championship. What do you think here in 3 words, right?
Well, I can't do 3 words. I'm not letting you speak for 90 seconds there in one go and then give me 3 words, Thom.
Absolutely amazing. Wow.
Right at the final moment, I'm going to stand my ground on that one. But no, I think James Baldwin said it best, is the level of competition here is very high. The racing is extremely fun. These are brilliant cars to race against each other. You can see they can slide, they can rub paint, they can take a bit more than a little bit of paint rubbing. In fact, they can run very closely to each other, and you can get away with just running some slightly alternative lines. I don't mean like in the wet where you can go completely wherever you want, but it's not the same as the GT3s in this game, or a Formula One car where if you're a few inches off the perfect racing line, you're nowhere. These cars make for brilliant racing. We saw it through all 3 rounds last year. We saw it through 3 rounds again this year. 6 brilliant races. I couldn't be happy to be a part of it, Thom.
100%. Honestly, Chris, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I think we got the perfect championship here. This whole championship, it's been so much fun to commentate together with you, and I hope that for anybody who's been watching, it's been amazing to watch as well. Of course, we would like to thank, on behalf of Alpine Esports, a big thank you to all the partners who have been involved in making this year's Alpine Esports Series as big of a success as it's actually been. I've had a lot of fun, and Chris, you can finish it off here.
Well, there are a couple more thank yous, actually. I'm going to just get it in there. We should thank the guys from Race Clutch who've put this together, and of course our brilliant stream director Mike Yao, who always knows when Victor Nikolai is up to something interesting and catches the action for us, keeps it interesting and keeps the trains running on time around here. And to everyone else involved, and of course to everyone that's watched, it's been a pleasure being a part of this, and hopefully it happens again next year, Thom.
For sure. Let's say see you soon, and have a wonderful day.